Hey guys. Welcome back to another day in the life, you know? Um, I'm gonna just jump right into it. I am fighting another sinus infection, right? And a friend of mine recommended that I should watch the show You to me about weeks ago. So yesterday while I was laying in the bed fighting said sinus infection again, I figured, let me just go ahead and pop it on since I know I'm not going to sit up and like get any homework or anything done. So let me put this show on. Boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. This show is crazy. I know I'm a little late to the party, but what I realized is that I kind of was staying away from it because a lot of the stuff looked triggering to me, right? Like it looked like it was going to put me in a headspace that was going to be like, you know what? I felt some of these things. I don't need to see them. And it kind of did. But what it ultimately did was spark the interest in this video. And so, and some of the conversations I've had since I started binging it kind of made me be like, all right, Regina, go ahead and sit down and do this one. So today, guys, I bring to you how to know when you're in a trauma bond. Just 5 little, oh, that makes sense. So real quick, let me define it based off of what I've experienced and, what I've seen and what the Googles has told me. A trauma bond is a bond that forms due to intense emotional experiences, and it keeps you emotionally captive to someone else. And when I hear that, I have to kind of like pause for a second because I have to think about the relationships that I have, which I do think were kind of forged in trauma, or kind of still have that little bit of recidivism of pain and hurt and like all of that. And I had to go, well, they're not all bad relationships. And I don't think all trauma bonds have malicious intent per se. I do think they have a very stagnant feel about them if you just leave them in that spot. And then I think trauma bonds can be damaging if you've actually healed past the type of trauma that wedded you to that person in the first place. For example, if you got really close to a police detective because that's the guy who reported to every domestic violence situation that you had with a particular boyfriend, right? And then you somehow move on and get through that and survive that scenario, but you keep this relationship. But then every new man that you introduce, your detective friend feels like he has to protect you from it. It stagnates where you have actually been or trying to go in that relationship. He doesn't mean any harm, but he definitely is holding you back. And so I realized that under that pretense, right, with the growth and the healing that I've been doing, I might have some trauma bonds still existing in my life that going forward, I kind of need to set the record clear. Like, hey, bro, like this is what needs to happen. Like this is what you need to recognize when it comes to where I am now. So yeah, I kind of wanted to sit down and like really debunk that and pay attention to that because I've grown a lot and like I've really made it to like different spaces and times in my life. And whether I was, the person who was being traumatized in these relationships more times than not, or if I'm the person who's healing or helping from those relationships, I got to realize what these trauma bonds have done to me. Well, the first step in realizing what they've done to you is recognizing where they exist. So here's some 5 things that I think will kind of stand out in all trauma bonds that people have. 1, you feel the need to please this person at all time or always keep them in a comfortable state. And that's from both ends of like a trauma bond, right? Because it's like, if you always got to keep this person in a place of like happiness so they can do, or if you always got to keep this person in a place of comforting so they can do, that is taxing and draining to you on so many freaking levels. And I've experienced a lot of relationships where I was on both ends, where it's like I'm always comforting or coddling, or I'm always, running to and to be comforted, or, I just want to make sure that you're happy and I do what makes you happy so you don't leave me. And that's just kind of ridiculous, right? The trauma of abandonment causes me to act that way sometimes, and I just don't desire that anymore. The second thing is that you need them around, or they need you to be around, but especially in times of like stress and strife and stuff like that. I know that I've had, and I say it like that because I recently kind of just backing up from these people, but I've had friends who only really hit me when it's something bad happening. Oh, I really need you. Always start with the, oh, I miss you, G. And it's like, I'm still here. My number has changed a few times, but my Facebook don't. Like, you can always reach out to me. And don't just reach out to me when everybody else around you in your amen corner isn't amening you anymore. And so you like, well, I just need to hear from you, G. No, you don't, because that's probably why you stopped talking to me in the first place. Reach out to me when everything's good. Because ultimately in these trauma bond relationships, what I've realized is that on either end, it's never enough for the other person. You can never really help me enough through this problem, or you can never really make me feel good enough or love me enough, or it's just never enough, which thus is still draining to both parties. Number 3, in a relationship, your value seems to be diminished, without them. Like, instead of feeling like I'm a good friend or a good partner or whatever, it feels like, oh, my life would be more turbulent without this relationship, or I don't know where I would be without this. And it's like, I guess the only way I can kind of sink home this example is good relationships, right? After those run their course, they don't leave this like hole in your life one way or another. They've added to it, right? Like experiences, lessons, or just maybe good times and laughter. I argue that if a relationship leaves you and kind of leaves an indentation, a hurtful, a heavy indentation, right? You always feel the need to fix somebody else's problems, or you always feel the need to have somebody else fix your problems type of impacts. That might have been a trauma bond, and it being gone might be a blessing for you. I remember a couple of relationships, and I'm not just talking about romantic ones, but a couple of relationships in my past have ended where it was like, whew, you know what? I thought I couldn't go a week, a day, a month, an hour without this person, but clearly I can. And now that I do, it feels a little less heavy. Again, on both ends of the equation, when I was the person who was going through, or when I was the person helping through. I move a little lighter now because of those relationships being done, and it feels good. And I'm happy that I was able to see that tethering and disconnect it. The fourth, I guess, notice thing is when you distance yourself, there's always that same familiar hook that pulls you back in. I have a running joke with some people who've known me for a long time, and they always go, yeah, yo, we can always get you a chicken. And unfortunately, you can sometimes, but it's not as easy as it used to be. Yo, I am really Mikey at heart. If you feed me, I'm there. I'll eat almost anything. Oh my God. Anyway, but yeah, I had to be like, nah, dog, I'm not talking to you. And I don't care how many chicken pieces in the world. I don't care how many sushi restaurants you get. I don't care how many bottles of wine you're offering me. We need to talk about this issue, or we can't move forward. And unfortunately, this is one of those things that is very prevalent in abusive relationships. But like I said earlier, all trauma bonds don't have malicious intent. Sometimes they just have that I wasn't paying attention and you grew type of mentality, which is an easier thing to fix, in my opinion, than the I'm going to continuously hurt you. But yeah, you got to realize your own patterns, trips, and triggers, as my dad tells me. The fifth thing, and I kind of had to realize this, was a part of my psyche of just hurt, pain, and abuse. Trauma bonds, you romanticize the relationship, right? You make it way bigger than what it is. And I kind of realized this when I was talking about someone. And I'm a writer. I'm a very animated. I am a creative person. So a lot of stuff that I do is very animated. To the layman, I may be painting this big old Da Vinci where I know, oh no, it's just a rough sketch. It just sounds good. It just looks good. I just sketch real good. Sometimes I romanticize relationships and make them way bigger than what they are for no other reason than I need to see the world through these rose-colored lenses because of all of the shit shade shows that I had to experience unbeknownst to me, you know? Be careful. Sometimes a relationship can be just as grand as it feels. And then sometimes it's just regular degular. And both are absolutely okay. The goal, of course, is healthy relationships. That's always the ultimate goal. Realizing that bonds with only trauma, hurt, and pain is the glue. How stagnant that keeps you was one of the things that really transformed my life and my healing process. So I don't know. I was definitely triggered by you, but my goal is to not have relationships where I fantasize that, to have relationships where the energy feels like that infinity sign, ever flowing, ever growing, ever improving. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you notice, I'm trying to stay around that 10-minute mark. So, keep working with me, keep rocking with me. As always, guys, I leave you with a lot of light because the winter is officially here and those beautiful, bright, sunny days giving you the optical illusion that it's nice outside. And it ain't, but still bask in the ambiance. Anyway, I leave you with a lot of life because, hey, I don't know why we got it, but we got it together. Let's make it work. And most importantly, and always, always more abundantly, a lot of love. Because the love that you give to me, guys, I definitely 10 times fold give right back to you.